core purpose of each incarnation is spiritual growth. The way to accelerate your growth is by dedicating yourself to lifelong self-improvement. The process involves focusing on what inspires you, acquiring knowledge and skills, cultivating self-awareness and the right mindset, and embracing challenges. All of this sounds like a lot, especially if you are new to the growth journey. This video breaks down the growth process into a step-by-step framework that you can use to achieve lifelong growth. In particular, this video will give you the tools to acquire the growth mindset and implement the growth process. Part 1. The Mindset of Growth. The most profound question we can ask ourselves is, what is the purpose of existence? If we study metaphysics, we find the answer. It is evolution of consciousness. The evolution happens through the mechanism of reincarnation. Think of each incarnation as a hands-on learning experience in the school of reality. There are many lessons to be learned, including loving others and yourself, building joyous relationships, and creating abundance. The lessons keep repeating till we have mastered them, just like being in a school. As beings possessing free will, we determine how quickly or slowly we learn the lessons. There are three broad ways people use their free will to grow. Many people, unfortunately, grow only unconsciously. This is because they are not even aware of what lessons they are learning. This is the path of suffering, which is a slow progression on the journey of growth. As their level of consciousness rises, people realize that they are here to learn, and that's when they begin to grow consciously. The path of conscious growth is the path of empowerment, because conscious growth enables them to see themselves as creators rather than victims. As people rise further in their consciousness, there is yet another level, that of strategic growth. This is the path of mastery, and it leads to true transformation, not just incremental change. It is helpful to understand why many people grow unconsciously. The reason is conditioning, which limits people's thinking and behavior. The first type of conditioning that affects all humans is biological conditioning. We are biologically wired to seek safety, security, and comfort rather than growth. This is because growth requires change. But over millions of years of evolution, our brains have learned that change can lead to danger. And even if there is no danger, navigating the new landscape created by change requires expending mental energy, a precious evolutionary resource. Although we live in a more secure society today, the inbuilt resistance to change still hinders us. The second layer of conditioning comes from the global economic system, which turns humans into trained consumers. The machinery of consumerism traps people in the endless and mindless cycle of consumption, accumulation, and passive entertainment, which is a form of information consumption. When people are driven by conditioning, their lives lack a higher purpose, and without purpose, they take the path of least resistance, which is to keep doing what they were doing even when it does not bring joy and meaning. The way to overcome the force of conditioning is to focus on a higher purpose. Focus on what inspires you. Focus on what makes you come alive rather than what keeps you safe. The great mindset shift is to become intentional about growth. Many years ago, I learned a valuable lesson from John Maxwell that growth is not an automatic process. Unless we are intentional about growth, we will not grow. If you are serious about growth, make growth a priority. devote resources to growth. The next section will show you how. Part 2. How to implement a process of growth. If you want to grow consistently, you need a systematic process of growth. The process I recommend has two parts. The first part is to choose an area of focus. What you don't want to do is to attempt to change everything at once. The human brain has a limited capacity for cognitively demanding tasks. So, choose one area and focus on that area for the next 3 to 6 months. There are two easy ways to select an area of focus. The first way is to look at the most important dimensions of human experience and select one that you feel needs the most amount of growth. These areas are body, work, mind, relationships, finances, and contribution. The other way to select an area of focus is to use the 12 soul archetypes. We explored these archetypes in the previous video on how to align with the soul purpose. The video is available on our community website. Let's take a pause here to do our first exercise. Write down the answer to the question, what is your area of focus for the next 3 to 6 months? Once you have finished writing, you can continue the video. So far, we have discussed the first step in the process of growth, how to choose a focus. The second step is to implement a weekly growth cycle. The cycle has 3 simple steps: learn, apply, and adjust. Let's dive deeper into the steps. The first step in the growth cycle is to learn. Since there is so much to learn, focus on specific knowledge and skills. For example, if your area of focus is health, you may need to learn about nutrition, exercise, and stress management. The specific skills you want to cultivate may be cooking nutritious meals that can be quickly prepared, managing your time so you can go to bed early and exercise in the morning, and meditating. Let's do an exercise to identify the specific knowledge and skills. Write down the answers to the following 2 questions. 1. For your chosen area of focus, what roles and responsibilities do you need to fulfill? And 2. What knowledge and skills do you need to fulfill your roles and responsibilities? The next step in learning is to use resources that can help you learn quickly and effectively. If you are a beginner, the best resource is to use books and audiobooks from experts. Books are a cost-effective way to learn on your own, and they can take you quite far. I highly recommend audiobooks because you can listen to them during non-productive time, such as when you are driving or exercising. As you grow in your journey and reach the intermediate stage of growth, you will need to work directly with teachers. Of course, working with teachers is much more expensive than buying books, but a good teacher can save you years of effort. In the last stage of growth, when you have become advanced, it's best to work one-on-one with mentors. These are people who are where you want to be in a few years, and they can hold your hand and lead you to where you want to go. Once you know what skills you need to cultivate and the resources that will help you cultivate those skills, it's time to create a weekly plan for learning. The plan should address the what, the how, and the when. Let's do an exercise to create the plan. Write down the answers to the following 4 questions. 1. For the next week, what do you want to learn? For example, let's say you want to learn how to have more joy in your life. 2. How will you learn? An answer might be that you want to learn from the book Living with Joy, written by Sanaya Roman. 3. When will you learn? The answer might be that you read the book 30 minutes every day at 9 p.m. just before going to bed. 4. What are the next action steps to implement your learning plan? This exercise helps you create specific action steps. For example, buy the book and set a timer to read every day at 9 p.m. The second step in the learning cycle is to apply what you have learned. Remember, the goal of learning is action, not merely knowledge. If you do not apply what you have learned, what is the point of learning? To stay focused on action, reflect on the following 3 questions. 1. What have you learned? When you read a book, take a few minutes after each chapter to write down what you have learned. 2. How can you apply what you have learned? Is there a specific practice that you need to cultivate? Is there a new belief system that you need to adopt? 3. What daily and weekly activities should you commit to so that you can apply what you have learned? For example, if the book recommends creating a gratitude practice, you might commit to writing a sentence of gratitude every day in a journal. If you have already started your growth cycle, pause the video and write down the answers. If you have not started the cycle yet, come back to this video once you have. The final step in the growth cycle is to adjust. Examine your growth cycle weekly and make changes. Here are 3 great questions to ask yourself to drive this process. 1. What is working? What is not working? 2. What should you do more? What should you do less? 3. What should you start doing? What should you stop doing? For the learning cycle to work, devote 30 minutes to an hour every week to review and plan. Give yourself uninterrupted time for this exercise. Reflect on last week's learning and set goals for applying what you have learned. Examine the cycle for areas of improvement. And finally, set goals for the next week's learning. You have now learned how to create a process of growth by choosing a focus and implementing a growth cycle. If you are serious about growth, make a commitment to invest in yourself. The best use of resources is investment rather than consumption. To give an example from my life, I came across John Maxwell's books and audio programs in 2004, and when I followed his advice, it changed my life. He emphasized the need to create a concrete plan for growth and encouraged me to invest an hour every day into learning. In the last 19 years, the daily practice has transformed my life, and it will do the same for you. Further, invest 1% to 5% of your income in your growth. If you start by investing just 1% of your income consistently in your growth, over a period of time, you will see massive changes in the way you think and behave. I hope the ideas presented in this video help you massively accelerate your growth and live a life aligned with purpose and joy.